Which activity will help you improve your verbal communication skills? In this video, I'm gonna share 3 specific exercises and learnings that I learned, one from giving a talk at TEDx, one from a terrible failure working with a client, JetBlue, which has a little bit of a redemption story in it as well. And third, I'm gonna share some really cool learnings from the analytics of over 100 videos that I've put out on YouTube. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Before this video, we need to ask, hey Google, can you change the color of the light to green? I'll tell you why our background is gonna be green and my shirt is green right after this intro. Let's get into it. We're in the green room because that's where professional speakers prepare. That is my job. I get hired by companies and universities and events all over the world to professionally speak, to help make connection and engagement easy at conferences and events, to increase the connection of culture in organizations. And oftentimes, particularly for big events, there will be a green room. It's usually not green, although the TEDx talk that I was invited to give 7 years ago or so, it was actually this very terrible, pukish, pale-looking green. But they're really the rooms with waters that speakers for the event or performers hang out in, prep before coming up to backstage. And so we'll be hanging out in the green room because you're here to increase your verbal communication skills, so thought I might add a little ambiance. First lesson I had from recording a TEDx talk, and this is so 7 years ago, I would not have identified as a professional speaker. In fact, I was invited to give a TEDx talk about something that I was really passionate about, that I'd worked on really hard through this organization, and it was this concept of taking positive social risks. And after that talk, somebody called me up and said, hey Chad, this was amazing. Can you come speak at our company retreat? I'm curious, how much do you charge? It's like, I don't know, I need to figure that out. And that was the beginning journey and actually part of the source of We and Me, or what has become my company now, We and Me, and we've created all these tools and card decks to help make connection and engagement easy. Anyhow, side context. The learning that I had from this TEDx talk about how to increase verbal communication skills is, TEDx talks are assigned to you in increments of 3 minutes. So you can give a maximum of an 18-minute talk, but there's also 15-minute talks and 12-minute talks and 9-minute talks and 6-minute talks and even 3-minute talks. So in the particular TED event that I was doing, submitted the amount of time. I think I said 12 minutes. I like a good crispy video. That's about, the length of most of my videos on here are in the 8 to 12 minute range. And they replied a couple weeks later and said, you're accepted, super excited. This topic is gonna be great. You'll be slotted in right here. Oh, but you have 6 minutes. It's like, so I need to cut down half of what I was planning to share, half of what I was planning to unpack, and share that here. So what I did to do that was I literally went into I was teaching at Penn State at the time. I went into an empty classroom. I set up my phone and I recorded myself giving that TED talk. And it was 10 minutes to start. And then I said, okay, I went back to the drawing board, cut this, slash this. Okay, it's 8 minutes, and kept cutting it down until 6 minutes. But the accidental learning that I had about how to increase your verbal communication skills is record yourself. It's a little bit painful to hear, for most people who aren't professional speakers, to hear the sound of your own voice and to watch your mannerisms. But if you want to get better at verbal communication, you have to watch yourself communicate verbally and offer feedback. Ideally, loving, non-judgmental feedback. To say, oh wow, I wasn't aware that as I was talking, like I was making this point and I was just kind of staring down at my shoelaces. I need to look up, right? So you'll give yourself all these tweaks and you'll be a great person to give yourself feedback. In addition to that, and this is a little bit more vulnerable, you can record a little snippet of you verbally communicating something and put that out on the internet, social media somewhere, and ask for feedback. And it's a really powerful tool to say, hey, my intention right now is to increase my verbal communication skills. This feels really vulnerable, but I'm recording this video and sharing it out with you, hoping that you can tell me things that I can improve, whether it's my cadence or pitch or tone or volume or eye contact or gestures, whatever it is. What can I do to increase my verbal communication? Extremely, extremely useful tool. There's TEDx learning, record yourself. Second major learning came from a huge failure at JetBlue. This is better. So one of my first corporate engagements was with JetBlue Airways. And to be honest, it was a friend who knew the learning and development organizer that was the original connection and spark to this work. At that point, Will and I were in progress of writing our book, Ask Powerful Questions. And so we were there to lead a workshop with the learning and development team on how to ask powerful questions to create conversations that really matter in a training context. And so we were there, it's like really excited to do a great job for this client. Walked into this fancy corporate JetBlue Airways office building in New York City. And we're in the middle of this workshop and I'm just kind of looking around, reading the room, and I'm like, I don't know that people are super tuned in, super engaged, right? And so in that moment, my realization was I was so focused on this person. I wanted them to like what we were doing. I wanted them to think that we were doing a great job. I wanted me to look good. I wanted Will to look good. And if you want to increase your verbal communication skills, you have got to shift from me to we. You have to have an other-centered perspective. And this was true for me, even rewinding back to the TEDx talk that I gave. I was the most nervous I had ever been just a few minutes before that TEDx talk. And about 30 seconds into the talk, my heart rate went way down because I had this shift. I realized, whoa, this is not about me. This is not about what I look like. This is for the audience. I'm so passionate about this idea. I can't wait to share this with these 800 people in these seats and the people who will watch the video afterward. I am so committed to providing value to them. And all of a sudden my nerves went down and the energy and passion with which I was speaking increased because I was more concerned about adding value to somebody else rather than looking good. So anyway, back to this workshop. In the middle of it, at TEDx, I had a mentor that advised me as much as possible to share and acknowledge your own failures and highlight other people's successes. And so I tried to bring that learning with me into this workshop at JetBlue. And in the middle of the workshop, I just had a sense that it wasn't going super well. And so I checked in, I just said, full pause, hey, this is not for me, this is for you. Just on a scale of like 1 to 10, checking in, is this working for you? And JetBlue was a pretty polite culture. We're all like, which I knew was like, not so great. And then that allowed me to swim in that failure for a minute, or that perceived failure. I wouldn't call it a total failure. That perceived failure, and say, okay, I am here for this. I have no interest in this or this. And so what can we do to bump it up? And really clear feedback came in. It was like, actually, we'd love to start moving a little bit more. You have mentioned multiple times that we're gonna be experiential learning and doing rather than sharing, but you're verbally presenting to us. And it was this the shift of like, my entire philosophy is rooted in the idea that experience is the best teacher. Even though I like to think that I'm a decent teacher, experience is by far the best teacher. And so immediately we got up and did an exercise that we had planned, and it totally shifted the nature of the group. And so for me, the learning there is recognizing, and if you want to increase your verbal communication skills, maybe the best thing that you can do is to actually check in with your audience live in the moment. The third set of learnings is coming from a crazy amount of analytics from over 100 videos that I've recorded. I'm super excited to share this with you. Stay tuned for the next couple minutes, because what I'm going to unpack are learnings that took me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours to actually pick up, and I'm gonna share them with you in like 2 minutes. But first we had to change the lights, because if you've been following the channel for any length of time, you know that the 100+ videos that I've put out on YouTube most of the time exist in this little studio space here that's just got a plain white background. So that's where we'll be for these learnings. So you have to understand, YouTube analytics gives you an immense amount of data, right? I get to see what percentage of the video somebody watched, when people drop off. I get an engagement graph that says, oh, every time you say this, people drop off right here. And so I've learned so much from that. I've also learned what videos have really picked up and worked. And so if you want to increase your verbal communication skills, here are 2 tips from these hundreds of hours of recording and publishing YouTube videos, answering people's questions, that I would love to give you. Number 1, if you want to increase your verbal communication skills, ask yourself if you have a context hook, which is basically telling people what's in it for them in the first 30 seconds. In particular, YouTube actually has a metric that shows you what percentage of people are still watching after 30 seconds. And if that number is low, I didn't have an others-centric enough, a compelling enough invitation to say, hey, this is exactly what you're gonna get out of the video if you choose to stick around to the end. And so that's why a majority of my videos start out with, here's the question I'm answering. Even this video, what are activities that I can do to improve my verbal communication skills, right? Telling you right up front, and then I immediately said I'm gonna share a learning from speaking at TEDx, I'm gonna share a learning from a failure at JetBlue Airways, and I'm gonna share learnings from analytics from YouTube videos. That context hook right there, that is essential to let people know why they should pay attention, because you could be the best, most polished presenter on the planet, but if people don't care about your content and they don't see what's in it for them or the value, they're going to drift, right? The brain can actually listen at 300 to 400 words a minute, even though most of us speak at 150 words a minute. So that means that people are thinking twice as fast as you're speaking. So you've got to have the value proposition for why should I care about this, or else people's brains will wander. They're actually designed and built to wander a little bit. I'll give you another concrete example for the ending. One of the things I noticed is every time I said the word hope, there would be a drop in engagement. And not like it could be like, I hope you have a nice day, or I hope you enjoyed this video, or I hope. It was this signal of like, I'm done. And so if you want to increase your verbal communication skills, pay attention to what are the cues that you're done or whatever you're gonna say next isn't valuable. Because believe it or not, most of us have that built into our lexicon. We get to the end of a presentation, we might say, only 2 slides left, or we say, right? The idea is that you're providing total value until the second it's done, right? Until the second you say goodbye or you lead in some sort of a closing statement or closing thought. We don't want 5 signal cues that are like, winding down here, okay, I'm almost done, I'm landing the plane. And so pay attention to your closing signals. And in particular, I've found for my videos, the word hope to be one of those videos that says, okay, thanks, Chad, I got what I needed, peace. Even though in the next 30 seconds or minute, I might share a golden nugget that has the potential to transform somebody's perspective. 98% of my work is with private clients, working with universities or organizations, helping to amplify a culture of connection, belonging, and trust, whether that's speaking or leading workshops. I take on 1 to 2 private coaching clients per year who are interested in becoming better virtual presenters. We work in a mentoring context. We meet regularly after key presentations you have. If that sounds interesting, feel free to check out info below. And if I've got a slot open in this 6-month period, I'd be happy to link up and share details and explore working together. I am Chad Littlefield. Have an awesome day.